Hello and welcome along to this week's edition of HK Direct. We start the new year here in Hong Kong with a big 11-race card coming up at Sha Tin. Here's what we've got ahead of us on today's edition of HK Direct. And there's going to be fireworks in the Group 3 Chinese Club Challenge Cup, our feature race on Monday for the New Year's Day card. Plus, we catch up with Jenny Chapman, the first part of our special interview with Jenny. And there are plenty of highlights across the meeting at Sha Tin on Monday, but the feature, it's worth $3 million. It's the Group 3 Chinese Club Challenge Cup over 1,400 metres. Here are the runners and riders involved in the contest, which has attracted a field of 12. And with the handicap conditions of the race, it makes it really interesting. Helene Paragon's a dual Group 1 winner who's got the 133 pounds on his back. Beauty Only, the 2016 Hong Kong Mile winner. Contentment, a Group 1 winner in his own right. Penophobia, who's trying the 1,400 metres for the first time in his career. Lucky Year, Giant Treasure. We move over to Dashing Fellow, who loves the 1,400 metres. Widder's Way is a very consistent horse. Dundonald has his second run for the season. Beat the Clock, huge performance to win. First up, Southern Legends in great form, as is 50-50. So it's a super competitive contest coming up. We're going to look at the two main form references for it. We're going to start off by going back to the Hong Kong international races and to the Hong Kong Mile. 3 horses to pick out here. The best performed of them is Helene Paragon, who came wide with his run on this occasion. Beauty Only is next to him. But we can also have a look at Contentment, who was quite disappointing for mine in this race and what was his first run after a bit of a break. So let's see how it unfolded. It was a race that was favoured by those up on the speed, and as a result, Beauty Generation was able to pretty much lead throughout and keep on going. However, given that scenario, I thought that Helene Paragon did a very good job to run on and finish third the way that he did. Beauty Only, Zach Purton reported that his action didn't feel quite right in the straight, and he finished 7th in this race. The race wasn't run to suit. I do have my concerns with Beauty Only coming back to 1,400 metres, while I was also a bit disappointed with Contentment, who was up on the speed. The tempo suited him. He was 3 wide, but even so, was a bit disappointed with his effort, and he's drawn wide on Monday. So of those 3, would be leaning towards Helene Paragon. Think that he's got the class. The question mark is the weight, and also coming back to 1,400 metres with the weight to carry. The other race from that same day that's an important form guide for this race is the 1,400 metre Class 1 that was run on this day. We can have a look at Southern Legend, who wins this race. You can also look at Dashing Fellow. Forgive him for this run. He was 3 wide throughout. Giant Treasure, nice effort from him, the grey in behind them. Dundonald, he missed the start, but he was making up ground later on. And these are the ones we can really focus on here. Shouldn't forget either this one, which is Winner's Way, who rarely runs a bad race. So plenty of form to take out of this event. Southern Legend got the beautiful run through at the right time, as you're about to see. He's won his last 2 races, including this one. He beat Nothing I Like More, who was undefeated up until this point. Nothing I Like More, the widest of them all at this stage of the race. He's a horse who had good form in Australia. He's really starting to hit his straps here in Hong Kong. Southern Legend, he's got a lightweight. I think that he'll go close. The grey Giant Treasure is also a very interesting horse in this event too, because he'd been out of form for quite a while. But if you go back to his earlier form, he split Morris and also Able Friend when he finished 2nd in the 2015 Hong Kong Mile. He won the Stewards Cup at his next run. He was out of form since then, but that was a return to form in that race. If he can bring that sort of form, he's also going to be a chance. I think that Dundonald's also some hope. Winner's Way won't be far away either. So plenty of form to go through there. A couple of others we should mention as well too. Beat the Clock. His performance first up when he won was absolutely super. He's never finished out of a place in his career. He's got a lightweight. He's from the Science Stable. Joe Moreira to ride. He's drawn well. Up to 1,400 metres, according to his rider, will be even better. And I think that he's going to be quite hard to beat. And 50-50 should be one to consider as well in this race. He is coming back in trip. He's the winner of the Chevalier Cup last time out, but he's done very little wrong in his time here in Hong Kong, and he'll acquit himself well again. So it's a race with plenty of chances in it, but to narrow it down to 4, I think that Beat the Clock can continue his rise through the ranks here in Hong Kong and can land his biggest win to date in the Group 3 Chinese Club Challenge Cup. My numbers are 10, 1, 11 and 6. beat the clock to beat number 1 Helene Paragon. He's got the weight to carry, but he's a proven class in the race. 11 Southern Legend to continue on his run of form, and 6 Giant Treasure on his Group 1 form from a couple of seasons ago, and on an improved run last time out. I think that he can figure in this as well. So 10, 1, 11 and 6. My numbers for race 10, the Group 3 Chinese Club Challenge Cup. It's the time of year when plenty of people are making New Year's resolutions, including our jockeys, who I caught up with to see what goals they've set themselves for 2018.
Yeah, I got actually a few, but probably the more reasonable one is try to be 117 until the end of the season.
I don't, unfortunately. I don't make resolutions. Yeah, probably to ride more winners than I have at the end of this year, so we'll see how we go.
Yeah, just to ride more winners.
Have you got any New Year's resolutions?
Yeah, just to stop doing this interview with you. No, I can't do it. It will be my goal this season to try to stay in the handy position with Joe and Zach if I can, but we'll have to work very hard for that.
I hope that Karis was joking about not doing any more interviews. I've always enjoyed catching up with him in the mornings. But no, good to have a chat to all of our jockeys there with their New Year's resolutions for 2018. As I mentioned at the start of the show, recently I caught up with Jenny Chapman, of course, the longest-serving member of the commentary team here in Hong Kong. She's been involved in the racing industry here since the early 90s, and I caught up with her just to reflect on her time in the game here. Well, Jenny, you've been an integral part of the Hong Kong racing scene for over 2 decades now, but let's go to the beginning. How did you come to be in Hong Kong in the first place?
Well, originally we came over here on a holiday, my husband and I, and I'd been here a couple of times in my teens, so I really loved the place. And I'd always said I'd love to live in Hong Kong, and we came over and went to the races a couple of times, thought, okay, let's give it a go on the punt. So we came over on the punt originally.
You'd worked in TV covering races in Australia prior to coming over here. How did it come to be that you got onto the coverage here in Hong Kong?
Well, it was interesting because when we came over, my kids were 3 and 1, and ended up being asked to go back for Channel 10 to do the Melbourne Cup coverage. So I went back there, and then someone from cable TV over here asked me to work for them. So I got my work visa and I worked for them, and then the Jockey Club asked me to work for them.
Tell us about covering Melbourne Cups too. You're synonymous, you, Peter Donegan. In the 90s, Channel 10 covering Melbourne Cups. It's the biggest race in Australia, a race that everyone stops to watch. For you to be involved, what was that like?
It was fantastic because I started with Peter Donegan many centuries ago now, Channel 7, and so I worked with him at 7, I worked with him at 10, and we had some fantastic fun doing the Melbourne Cup. It was amazing. The atmosphere at the Melbourne Cup is incredible. So I did that for 8 years for Channel 10, and yeah, I've been working for the Jockey Club for over 20 now. So.
We're lucky enough here in Hong Kong, Jenny, where we've got jockeys from all around the world competing here, whether it's on a regular basis or just for the big meetings. Who are some of the better ones that you've seen in your time?
Well, one of the most outstanding moments on the racecourse for me was when Tony Cruz rode his last winner, a horse very aptly called Super Team, and just the adoration from the crowd with Tony when he waved goodbye for his very last ride, and he won on it as well, was incredible. Just sent tingles down your spine.
Can this be the final capping of a brilliant career? It will be. Super Team well clear for Tony Cruz, number 946, and what a career comes to a close in a very happy way. Super Team by 4 lengths.
Tony was a great jockey and he's a great trainer. Joe Moreira, outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And he's got some competition this year as well. I mean, Zach's been fantastic as well. But Joe, just to do what he's done, breaking all those records in such a short amount of time, it's been incredible.
What about trainers? Who are the horsemen that you've enjoyed seeing their careers here in Hong Kong?
Probably John Size, because he was, when he first came, he barely had a runner for about the first 3 months. And then he went on to win the premiership, but it was an outstanding achievement. And I think also a lot of trainers have tried to change their ways a little bit to go the John Size way, because a lot of horses used to play up a lot more, whereas John's horses are very docile, the majority of them. You'll get the odd exception once again, but they're so quiet, so relaxed, and they're just happy horses.
And horses, Silent Witness, you had a lot to do with him, bringing him over here to Hong Kong. Is he the best you've seen here?
Yes, Yeah, well, we've had some great horses. Fairy King Prawn was fantastic as well. John Moore's had a stack of really good horses too. Rapid Dragon, I loved him too. Fortunately, he went too soon. But Silent Witness, yeah, it was just because it was at the time where, you know, SARS was around as well, and people needed a hero, and he was it.
I think Blazing Speed's another one that you've mentioned in fond terms too on the coverage before.
Yeah, look, I fall in love with a few here and there, and not necessarily the best of horses, but Blazing Speed was a good horse, and he was such a docile, lovely horse as well. Penny of Phobia is a beautiful horse too, and yeah, and there's one at the moment, Western Express, who I absolutely adore. But those are the horses I personally fall in love with. As I said, they're not necessarily the best ones.
So Jenny, you've been here for over 20 years now. What does the future hold? Is Hong Kong home, or would you like to return back to Australia at some stage?
Look, it's home, Edward. Definitely, I'm Chinese.
Great to catch up with you, Jenny. Thanks very much for your time. And on next week's edition of HK Direct, we'll be going inside the parade ring with Jenny and getting an insight into how she assesses the horses in the yard. We're out of time on today's show. Let's just recap what we've got ahead of us for New Year's Day racing at Sha Tin. Our coverage starts at 12 o'clock. The feature, the Group 3 Chinese Club Challenge Cup, is race 10. It's due off at 5:10 Hong Kong time. For more information, go to the website hkjc.com, where you'll also be able to watch Racing to Win on Sunday night. And you can also follow all of the action on social media through Twitter at HKJC_racing. So that's it for today's show. Hope that it's a happy and profitable new year for you. Join us next week. We'll be catching up with Jenny. Plus, we'll be previewing the Bohemia Sprint Trophy at Group 3. Until then, though, it's goodbye.